All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway, and I want to welcome you all to the 2025 State of Public Safety. Thanks to everybody who has been here, community leaders, folks from MPD. Really appreciate you coming to be part of this. Today, you will hear about the progress that we've made over the past year to improve public safety and to address the issues that most concern Madisonians. Chief Barnes has very successfully shifted our approach to crime prevention, and as you'll see in the numbers, the results are apparent. Evidence-based policing is not just a strategy, it's a commitment to transparency, accountability, and proactive crime reduction. By using data to identify crime patterns and focusing resources on the most pressing issues, we've been able to address these problems and patterns head-on while also fostering trust within our community. Here in Madison, the results speak for themselves. Since implementing this model, we've seen a year-over-year reduction in shots fired and a significant drop in homicides. These are not just numbers. They represent lives saved, neighborhoods stabilized, and families spared from tragedy. Any life lost in our community is unacceptable, and we continue to work towards a day where we do not experience gun violence in Madison, and a day where people feel safe in their homes, their neighborhoods, and all across our community. Transparency and accountability are at the heart of this. Evidence-based policing ensures that every action is guided by data and measurable outcomes, giving both officers and residents a clear understanding of how we're addressing crime. This clarity builds trust and ensures that our efforts are aligned with the community's needs and expectations. The strategy also empowers our police officers to address issues proactively. By analyzing trends and deploying resources strategically, we're not just reacting to crime, we're preventing it. This allows officers to focus on problem solving, community engagement, and building the relationships that make our neighborhoods and our city safer. Madison has long been a leader in innovative public safety practices, and this evidence-based policing is just another step forward. It's a model of what policing can and should be: data-driven, community-focused, and results-oriented. I want to deeply thank Chief Barnes and the entire Madison Police Department for their tremendous work. And now, to give you the details, I'd like to welcome Chief Barnes to the podium. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Thank you to members of our media for being here. I've said this since 2020 that you are an incredible, important partner for public safety for us. I'm certainly honored to stand before you to share some of the progresses we have made regarding public safety here in the city of Madison. The foundation of our approach rests in several key pillars that guide our efforts to shape our vision for the Madison Police Department. That vision was crafted over 4 years ago and holds that the Madison Police Department will be the national model for exceptional policing through our commitment to excellence, selfless public service, community partnerships, and evidence-based policing practices. I believe that this briefing today demonstrates our commitment and steadfastness to that vision. First and foremost, we recognize that there is still much work to be done and that any amount of crime or disorder is unacceptable here in Madison. But we hope that in the immense value of community partnership lies the answer to our problem of crime and public safety. Building strong relationships with the residents we serve is essential to fostering trust and legitimacy in policing practices. Together, we can create a safe environment for everyone. Thank you to our community partners who took time out of your busy schedules to be here today in support of our work. You have been so instrumental to me and to this police department, and your support is greatly appreciated, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I want to say thank you to our elected officials who support our work through funding and/or community connections. Thank you to our mayor for prioritizing public safety and believing in our vision of data-informed policing services while utilizing a public health approach to address some of the underlying conditions of why we respond to crime and disorder. And most importantly, thank you to our sworn staff and professional staff for your commitment to excellence and for trusting me with the vision and direction of our department. During the past 4 years, we were proud to implement evidence-based policing practices to allow us to make informed decisions grounded in data and human experience. This approach, coupled with our stratified policing model, enables us to allocate resources more effectively and address crime where it is most prevalent without over-policing and creating distrust. This laser-focused approach resulted in reductions in significant crime categories throughout our city. We'll now discuss some of those results. Again, everything we do here at the Madison Police Department begins with this: problem solving and partnership policing. We recognize and understand that we cannot solve crime and disorder alone. We need the trust and cooperation of our public, and I thank the public for giving that to us. In 2024, we set the following crime prevention goals: reductions in homicide, aggravated battery, shots fired, robbery, burglary, commercial and residential, theft from motor vehicle, and motor vehicle theft. We believe that building continued community partnerships was the best approach, and you see that here. So let's take a look at how we did. Reducing harm and victimization is our goal. In 2024, year to date, we had a citywide reduction in violent crime of 8%. We had a 12% reduction in property crime. And we established this or accomplished this through our stratified policing method, which included, among other things, directed patrol from officers and staff, using our COPA patrols, which means that there's a certain allotted time during the day that we want officers to be proactive and engage the community, and identifying patterns quickly by establishing thresholds so that one crime doesn't become 6 and 6 crimes do not become 12 crimes. Since 2020, there have been 2,164 fewer victims here in the city of Madison. 83 less victims of robbery, 826 less victims of burglary. That means that when business owners or residents came home, they did not find their home burglarized. There were 378 less victims of auto theft, and theft from auto victims reduced by 877 persons. In 2024, there were 535 less victims in these 4 categories, which equates to less victims, less arrests, and fewer harm to our city. This is all done despite the population of Madison steadily increasing. Since 2020, there have been an additional 21,000 people who call Madison their home. And so although the population is increasing, we are still working very hard and strategically to reduce crime here in the city of Madison. Let's talk about the significant categories that I mentioned before. We'll start with homicides. In 2024, we had a 40% decrease in homicides. And although no death is acceptable, it is good to see that these numbers are trending in the right direction. 3 of the homicides we had last year were domestic related. One was related to an alcohol bar dispute. 2 of the victims and offenders had prior contact. The suspect in all of these cases have been arrested with the exception of 1. That gives us an 83% clearance rate on homicides within our city. At the beginning of December, we had 3 homicides in the city. And unfortunately, that number increased with some crime that we saw and unfortunate tragedies in our city. We certainly honor those persons who lost their lives in 2024. We're committed to bringing those responsible for justice, and we're also committed to ensuring that these numbers continue to go in the right direction. I believe it is certainly possible in this city to have a year where no one loses their life to homicide. Aggravated battery. Aggravated battery in Madison decreased by 10%, which is the lowest number in 8 years. 35% of our aggravated batteries in the city are domestic related, and we've worked certainly in partnerships with other nonprofits and government agencies to address this issue. And 50% of the aggravated batteries that occurred in the city occurred actually in a private residence. Let's look at shots fired. This is something that certainly in 2020 we saw the height with 250 confirmed incidences of a shots fired. A confirmed incident is an incident where there's property damage, someone has been hurt, or we have evidence that a shot has been fired. Since 2020, we've reduced these by almost half, 48%. And in 2024, we ended the year with a 12% reduction in the number of shots fired. And I think this category is also related to community members' fear of crime. No one wants to live in a neighborhood where you hear gunshots. And if we can reduce this from occurring, we're also at the same time increasing citizens' confidence in the community and decreasing their fear of crime. Let's look at robbery numbers. Last year in 2024, our robbery numbers decreased by 16%. This is the lowest number of robberies recorded in over 12 years. And since 2020, we've had a 43% decrease in robberies, almost cut them in half. And certainly this is something that I think is related to our officers being in the right place at the right time. A lot of community education and a lot of thought going into this particular category, which is a violent crime category. Let's look at burglaries, commercial and residential, as I spoke of before. Early in my career, I had an opportunity to be a burglary detective sergeant, and I had a group of detectives who investigated commercial burglaries. And I've spoken with business owners who would go to work and find that they couldn't make money that day, or they couldn't hire their employees, or they had to shut down because someone entered their business, destroyed things, and took things that didn't belong to them. And this is a very, very serious category, not only for business owners, but for also community members. We are proud to report that in 2024, we had a 36% decrease in the amount of burglaries. And as you can see from the numbers, that's the lowest number of burglaries reported to police that we can find. We would have to actually go back and dig through probably some paper files to find a year where people reported more combined burglaries than last year. So the officers were certainly vigilant about that. And I think one of the things that really contributed to that was our thresholds. And I'll explain that briefly. So we have crime analysts, and they come in every day and they look for patterns. They look for problems. And our thresholds are 4 crimes occurring within a half-a-mile radius within 10 days. And what happens is, if that happens, the analysts will send out informations and bulletins to the commanders, who will then rededicate and reallocate resources. But what happens is, when there's 2, the captains are so smart that they proactively move those resources and notify the public and do the right thing. So 4 never becomes 2. And that's because we have an amazing group of captains and an assistant chief over patrol that's proactive about reducing crime, and we're fortunate to have them. Theft from motor vehicle. This was the category where we saw an increase. We had a 20% increase in thefts from motor vehicles, but as you can see from those numbers, that's still a 50% reduction from 2020. What we saw was we had several crime patterns that popped up on us rather quickly. Often when people are looking into vehicles, they look in more than one. They try door handles. And so I will tell you what I've been saying for the last 4 years, lock it or lose it. You must lock your cars. You must remove all valuables. And vehicles make horrible gun safes. Don't leave your vehicle in your car where someone who's looking for something to do could easily access your firearm. But our officers were quickly dispatched to these particular areas. We made some significant arrests, and we were able to end that. Motor vehicle theft. When I first arrived here in 2020, motor vehicle theft was on the mind of the entire nation. The Kia Hyundai craze was out. There were people who were waiting for people to warm their vehicles up, to take those vehicles. It was a priority, not only for the department, but for the entire community. And I met community members who had their vehicles stolen or chased off people in the middle of the night for trying to steal their vehicle. And we put together a strategy, and as you can see, last year we had a 38% reduction. But if you look at the numbers, only 373 reported stolen vehicles. That's the lowest number in 9 years for our department. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. And certainly as a person who needs a vehicle to go to work, or if you have to drop kids off coming out and having that vehicle stolen, certainly affects you. And we're proud that we're able to decrease some of those numbers. I want to talk a little bit about arrests, because that's something that I heard about, disparities and arrests and people who are justice involved. And I want to report that we've been moving in the right direction, slowly, but we've been moving in the right direction. Specifically, members of our African American community, our Black community, that spoke to me about these disparities and asked what our strategy was. And my strategy was simple: to reduce the number of incidents of crime. If there's no crime, there's no one to arrest. Also, it's working in partnership with agencies and nonprofits to ensure that kids have something to do. We did midnight basketball last year to ensure that people have a safe place to go and they can redirect their energy, whoever they may be. The number of African Americans arrested overall has been steadily declining since 2020. And last year, we arrested 48.3% of the people we arrested were African American, compared to 52% when I first got here. Certainly, there's a lot of work to do there, but we're certainly moving in the right direction. Now, when it comes to violent crime, when it comes to those violent crimes, last year we had a 10% reduction in the number of African Americans arrested compared to the year prior. And that is significant, in my opinion. We're doing everything that we can in order to make sure that we're fair and equitable, and that we're reducing crime for everyone, and that we make sure that no one has to be justice involved. And so I wanted to point that out. I also wanted to point out the number of referrals that we do in lieu of arrest. And we're certainly increasing those number of referrals, which means that people are not justice involved because we're referring them to other sources and they do not have to go to court. And we're proud of that work, and we're going to continue to do that. Traffic safety is absolutely on everyone's mind in Madison, East Washington Avenue. I've heard once or twice about racing, about speeding on East Wash, and our approach to this have really been about education, about visibility, and about enforcement. We have spent a lot of time doing all three over the last years. Just as a reminder, we identified what we call the high injury crime network, high injury traffic network, excuse me. This is where we were seeing a majority of our traffic fatalities, and this is where we chose to emphasize some of our attention. Not all of it. We were still in the neighborhoods. We were still on your side streets, but this is where we were seeing the majority of those. We gave out a lot of citations, specifically warning tickets. Over half of what we gave out was warning tickets and education, ensuring that people know to slow it down, watch the speed limit, and most importantly, we see this a lot, red means stop. Not slow down, not look left, right, you have to stop to ensure that no one is in the crosswalk. Let's look at our crash numbers. We had about a 44% reduction in traffic fatalities. Let me say that again, a 44% reduction in traffic fatalities year to date, and that is very, very significant for us. We have a city where a lot of people bike, where a lot of people walk, and we were seeing those numbers, as you can see from the bar graph, steadily rising. And so, with cooperation and partnership with Vision Zero, with our downtown business groups, with our neighborhood resource officers, we think we're headed certainly in the right direction, and we hope we can continue that from 16 to 9. So talk a little bit about partnership policing. During my swearing in, this was February 1, almost 4 years ago, I told you that our department would prioritize crime prevention, community engagement, and employee safety and wellness. The well-being of our officers, in my opinion, is paramount. This commitment ensures that our dedicated staff are supported both physically and mentally as they serve the community. We cannot do our best if we are not at our best. Thank you to the City of Madison and everyone who provided support to our officers during the Abundant Life Christian School tragedy. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for the calls, the emails, the people who stopped by. The support to our department was amazing, and I appreciate it. I'm also proud to report that our workforce is increasingly diverse, with 28% of our police officers being women. And during my tenure, we had the first police academy with 30% women. This is a national aspiration for the year 2030, and we did it in 2023. This diversity enriches our department and enhances our ability to connect with all members of the community, which is one of the reasons I believe we're able to slow our attrition numbers and hire more people. I am proud to announce that we have a fully staffed police department with 154 officers being hired during my tenure as police chief. As we move forward, I want to express my gratitude for the commitment and dedication of the Madison Police Department. Together, we are striving to create a safer, more inclusive Madison for everyone. This effort begins with strong leadership and adherence to our core values. To speak on the future of our department, please welcome Interim Police Chief John Patterson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Barnes, for your 4 years of service to the City of Madison, for your leadership and guidance, for your mentorship, and for your support. We wish you nothing but success in Seattle, and that community is extremely fortunate to have you, so thank you. For almost the last 27 years, I've very intentionally kept a low profile whenever possible, and I'm assuming that's probably not possible anymore, Chief. Well, clearly, with the help of our community and the support of our mayor and our city partners, public health, we've accomplished a great deal over the past 4 years. We look forward to continuing that success in 2025 and plan to remain committed to evidence-based practices, data-informed decision-making, and a crime prevention and accountability model that is demonstrating clearly positive results in our community. We will remain committed to our 5-year strategic plan and the established pillars of Madison-centric policing, youth engagement, public communications, and workplace culture. We will also prioritize the community policing principles that this department was founded on but we will also prioritize one another. As the chief suggested, this past month especially has been very, very challenging for your police department. It's been a month filled with trauma and sadness and loss. We must ensure that we're always ready and capable of achieving our mission of providing high-quality police services that are accessible to the entire community. So we'll focus on our wellness and our safety, and we'll look to build upon some of the gains that we've made already for our officers and professional staff. I sincerely look forward to this transition, but I do so with a great deal of humility, with pride for this organization, and with genuine love for this city and this community. So thank you all again. Appreciate you coming today.
And it has to show green. But before we take questions, I want to add my thanks to the gentleman standing on either side of me. Chief Barnes has been a great partner and a great chief for our community. I want it to be on the record that I did not give him permission to go to Seattle, but I've talked to the mayor of Seattle, and he knows how lucky he is to be getting Chief Barnes. Thank you for setting us on a course for success and for the work you've done over the past 4 years. Mayor Harrell and Seattle are very lucky to have you. Anytime you want to come back to Madison, you're always welcome. Chief Patterson, I very much look forward to working with you. Thanks for stepping up and taking on the mantle of interim chief while we let the Police and Fire Commission do their work to find our next chief. And I very much look forward to working with you. So I don't imagine you have questions for me, but I will let the chief take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming.
What would you say is your proudest goal over your years here in Madison?
I will say my proudest goal was to reintroduce the department to the community. 2020 was a difficult year for policing, not only here in Madison, but nationally, and rightfully so. In 2020, we saw the worst of this uniform and this badge. We saw someone take the life of a defenseless community member who was supposed to be supporting and protecting life. And people had a right to be upset. But what we had to do was we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to look internally, and the department did that prior to my arrival. And we had to say, this is who we are. We want to recommit ourselves to community partnerships and to making sure that everyone knows that you can trust this police department and that we're going to do the right thing. And it was not easy. It took a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of heartbreak, if you will, but we stayed the course, and we believe that we have a community that believes in our department, that trusts us, and that is willing to work with us. And that is the only way we were able to see some of those reductions that you saw today with those partnerships and with that trust. That is what I'm most proud of.
Hi, Chief. What evidence ultimately led the department to refer charges in the case of Brooke Stratton?
Well, you'll be able to read the court document, but that evidence was turned over to the district attorney's office. Obviously, we looked at digital evidence. We looked at surveillance cameras. We talked to people who knew Brooke and knew her habits. And then we did have an initial interview with the suspect, but it's in the district attorney's hands now, and we hope that justice will be done in that case.
Hi, Chief. Anna Marie Annie, Wisconsin Public Radio. You've been a big supporter of citywide permanent body cams, and I'm just curious if you have any hopes for Madison moving forward with that in the future.
Sure. You know, I believe that body-worn cameras are just one tool. It's not a panacea. but it is one tool to help with accountability. There have been many incidences that we would not have known about regarding police behavior and community behavior if not for the body-worn cameras. I think it's a small price to pay in the sea of public trust and transparency. I do believe that we've done the legwork on it. I hope that the department moves towards body-worn cameras and our community sees some value in it. However, I do understand that there are pros and cons to everything. I think that we have a community that supports us and trusts us, and whether we have body-worn cameras or not, I believe these officers will go out and they'll do their job the same every single day.
Hi, Chief. How do you feel the department is situated, with you leaving? This is, like you kind of mentioned, a very sort of tough time for the whole city these past couple of months. How do you feel about the transition out?
Sure. Certainly, the transition began before our tragedy with Abundant Life. But, this is a very strong and resilient department. And so we'll get through it because we have the support of an amazing community. But I feel the department is in a great place. I would not be leaving if I didn't have full faith and confidence of everyone in the police department. And so I'm not someone that would leave if things were not going well. In fact, I delayed my actually official announcement to stay in Madison. And so that's kind of how I feel. We're in a good place. Where we are with the community, where we are with our crime reduction strategies, and we're certainly in a great place with Assistant Chief John Patterson, who has really been a trusted advisor to me from day one.
Hi, Chief. Cronaker means WRT. Will the Madison Police Department continue to implement stratified policing after you leave for Seattle?
Yeah, I wanted, the answer is yes. We've done so much work. They have done so much work on it. It just makes sense. In fact, let me be clear. The strategy by itself isn't new. It's not something that I invented, but it's a strategy that's evidence-based and it's grounded in what your department does well. That's why it will continue. What this department does better than any other department and what kind of drew me here was problem-oriented policing. And this department is really the foundation of that strategy. So that's where stratified policing begins, and then the data analytics and all that stuff goes on top of it. But when I started policing, or when I decided to be a police officer, I was a public school teacher, some of you know, and I decided to make the transition to policing. So I just started reading books about where to go. And I found a department that talked about community policing and problem-oriented policing. And they talked about Herman Goldstein and things that he had done. And it was from this city, Wisconsin. And so to me, it was a great match. And so I do believe it will continue. And I think our officers and community will be better off for it.
Hi, Anna Hansen, Wisconsin State Journal. Assistant Chief, if I could, or Assistant Chief, Interim Chief, may I ask, what are some of your biggest, challenges that you foresee in your role, and what are some of your biggest goals?
Well, for the last 6 years, I've overseen training, and I think one of the largest challenges facing every police department right now is recruitment and retention of staff. And so that's why, especially in light of the last month, employee safety and wellness is really going to be one of the top priorities during this transitional period. But frankly, keeping the forward momentum and the forward progress that Chief Barnes has helped create is going to be one of the top goals as well. Obviously, I don't want to be an interim chief that takes steps backwards. I want to, position us in a strong way so that, when the next chief comes in, they're inheriting a department that is healthy and serving the city well.
That and cleaning out the business cards that are in my desk drawer.
Any updates on Abundant Life investigation? Any idea when that investigation will close and the full report will be released?
Sure, that investigation will be closed and a full report will be released when we have completed a thorough and complete investigation, and that is certainly not time-bound. We've submitted several subpoenas to social media companies, and some of those subpoenas are coming back. We have to go through things, and then they lead to other subpoenas. So we want to know exactly what the activity was and who people were talking to and what the conversations were about, who may have influenced people. That's going to take some time, and I do believe that we have the best detectives in the business. And I think that once that investigation is done, I fully expect that we'll give a thorough, detailed briefing to everyone, but thoroughness is more important than timeliness right now.
And then on that note, you've been vocal about supporting, SROs, officers in schools over your time here. Has this shooting renewed that conversation within the department and within the city?
No, I'm always consistent. I'm not asking for anything that I haven't stated on February 1, 2021. And I'm certainly not going to use a tragedy to advance some goal or gain. I'm not that person, no.
Chief, can you talk about the recovery process for you and other officers when responding to something like this and how everybody in your team is doing?
Sure, I can jump in. In 2021, we started a comprehensive wellness program within the department. So every commission member, every professional staff member has a wellness check annually that they're required to attend. They're not required to participate, but they're required to at least attend and be exposed to really what has been a stigma in law enforcement for many years, and that's just simply talking about your wellness and what you've experienced. And so I think, over the last several years, we've broken or chipped away at that stigma, certainly. We have a lot of staff who are willing to utilize counseling services or utilize one another. We have an incredible peer support team internally, and they've really risen to the occasion over the last 30 days, especially with several tragedies in the community. And so we feel like we have a very strong support system that exists within the department, but is certainly something that we want to continue to build upon and improve upon in an effort to retain staff and keep us well. Yep.
Thank you for coming.